Hopefully everyone has walked through the beautiful pop-up station we have out there. And when I first walked through there, I saw Birkenstock brand and I saw skincare.
Birkenstock skincare, why not?
And I said, why? You're saying why not? So that's a great place to start. Why?
Birkenstock is all about wellness, health and wellness, and cork is one of the most sustainable products on the face of the earth. We're a very significant user of cork, obviously. Aside from the wine industry, I believe we're the largest user of cork, and that's what's most recognizable in our products. We have found that the naturally occurring chemical that occurs naturally in cork has incredible regenerating qualities for your skin. If you cut a cork tree, and I'm not saying it'll happen right in front of your eyes, but the tree will actually regenerate itself. So if anybody out there cares about skin care, wrinkles, and things like that, we have found that the qualities of cork are incredible, and we have brought them to the market, and it'll be launching over the next year.
Now, maybe I'm just a skeptical person, but would I...
When it comes to Birkenstock, don't be skeptical.
Okay, I won't be skeptical. And I just realized I have my big old wallet in my front pocket, which is probably not a good look. It's not from a lot of money, it's from a lot of receipts. I haven't done my expenses in 9 months. But anyway, back to the conversation. I can't imagine your customers were asking for skincare, were they? Or is this is all internal out?
I think this plays to something that's very special about Birkenstock. Birkenstock is a very unique brand, we're a very unique product, and we're a very unique organization. And that brings up a good point of how we think. Great brands, like great bands, take their fans to places that they may not have known they wanted to go to. I mean, think about the Beatles. For the first 5 years of the Beatles, they became the most popular band on the face of the earth, making 2-minute pop songs, She Loves You, Yeah, Yeah, Yeah. Then they do Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, and it's this conceptual album that people are going, what? And now 50 years later, you look back and this is one of the seminal moments in rock and roll history. That's what great brands do. They take their fans to places where they may not know that they really want to be because you stay consistent with the DNA of the brand. We will never do anything from a product category that ever compromises the DNA of what makes Birkenstock Birkenstock.
So is it fair to say that the idea came mainly from I mean, it sounds like you were talking about product materials and other ways to use that, but there had to be, you know, I'm sure there are maybe other products that could be made out of cork.
Yeah, well, Birkenstock...
You didn't go into wine, for example.
Well, look, Birkenstock, you know, we date back to 1774. In a small village in Germany, a gentleman named Johann Birkenstock hung a shingle outside of his home, and on that shingle was one word, shoemaker. So for 240 plus years, we have been shoemakers. But part of what we do is it's all about wellness. It's all about health and wellness. And if there's a way to extend that health and wellness to our brand fans, this is a natural extension. We're in the bedding business as well. People would go, bedding in Birkenstock, what's that all about? Well, we're most known for our footbed. We invented the idea of a footbed, literally a bed that molds to your foot when you walk. Nobody else does this. This is what Birkenstock created. You're going to spend a third of your life sleeping. Your health and wellness is dependent upon your sleep habits. So why not be in the bedding business? It's just a little bit different for us rather than, well, why don't you guys get in the ready-to-wear business and slap Birkenstock on a t-shirt? Maybe one day, but it's not consistent with the core DNA of the brand.
And the health and wellness messaging you're talking about, is that new or has that always been something you've talked about even with footwear?
We don't talk that much about certain things that are just inherent in the product and in what we do. We don't need to run an ad. We don't do traditional marketing. We don't need to run an ad saying Birkenstock is good for your foot health, and if it's good for your foot health, it's good for your overall health. If people tend to think our shoes are really cute, that's great. But if people wear them because they truly have orthopedic benefits, this is something that we've done forever. I mean, that's how Birkenstock came to the US market. You know, it was unique to hear a female entrepreneur, Jen, up here before. We date back to the late 1960s when, I don't know, were there many female entrepreneurs, maybe like an Estee Lauder. I mean, Margot Frazier was basically a hippie. She had no footwear experience. She was traipsing around, hustling around Europe. Her feet hurt. She came upon these weird-looking shoes in Germany. She wore them around for a couple of weeks, came back to the United States, to the Bay Area, which is why we're still headquartered there. All of her friends were like, oh my God, what are those strange-looking shoes? She said, my feet feel fantastic after wearing them. She called the Birkenstock family, which was actually a factory making shoes in Germany, and said, hey, I think I can sell these. No experience in footwear whatsoever. She imported some shoes. She went to all of the shoe stores and said, I got this great idea for these comfortable shoes. You gotta carry them. And every single one of them said, those are the ugliest shoes I've ever seen. Nobody's gonna wear them. And today, obviously, our shoes are found in some of the finest retail stores around the world.
How big is the business today?
We don't quote the size of our business. We're privately family held, but suffice to say the business is now far more significant than it was 6 to 7 years ago.
So if I saw public numbers that said 800 million in 2016, maybe like $1 billion today, something like that?
I would say ballpark.
How big's the ballpark?
To us, quite frankly,
Yeah.
we don't talk about let's ship product to make this month. You'll never hear us use the term quarterly. We have one simple mission, and that is we sell products that bring people happiness and satisfaction. We sell products that bring people happiness and satisfaction. Is there any limit to how much happiness and satisfaction you can bring to the world? That's the scope of how big our business is, and that's how we think. And we don't sit there with 3 days left in the month and say, we got to kick this out the door to make a number because we say, no, we think about wanting to do these things and wanting to ship product because we have brand fans who aren't just you'll never hear us use the word consumer. We don't have consumers. Who has consumers? Do you think the Rolling Stones talked about their recent tour and about their consumers, or did they talk about their fans? Our fans become passionate, stark raving missionaries once they wear our product. It's just a different way to think about the business.
You were talking earlier about not doing a ton of traditional marketing. Over the last few years, I've seen some collaborations in fashion, streetwear, that with Birkenstock.
Yep.
That my reaction almost to every time was like, wait, Birkenstock? How? I mean, we could go through. You could tell us about some of them, but how did those happen?
That's the beauty of our brand. We don't go out there and say, hey, let's do a brand X brand collaboration. Any collaboration that we have done, and there's far less than anybody really thinks, it's just that they get incredible heat and they're very visible.
Valentino is one of them.
Valentino's a great example. Pierpaolo Piccioli, who's the creative director of Valentino, if you've read any quotes from him about Birkenstock, he totally gets what Birkenstock is all about. Rick Owens totally got the DNA of Birkenstock. So we don't do slap logo, throw it out there to consumers and get a quick hit. We do things that are very organic and very real. Like Valentino's a great example. We not only did the collaboration, but Frances McDormand wore a pair of Birkenstocks on the stage at the Academy Awards.
An actress, for those who don't know.
Frances McDormand, Academy Award winner. The big news after the Academy Awards all over the media isn't, most people can't remember what movie won Best Picture, but they all know, oh my God, Frances McDormand wore Birkenstocks on the stage. Frances McDormand's been wearing Birkenstocks for 30 years. She loves the brand. She's a fan of the brand. Oh, by the way, Valentino dresses her. So now all we did was create a Birkenstock with the input of Valentino to go with the Valentino gown that she was wearing to the Academy Awards. It's like that's making 1 + 1 equals way more than 2.
Do you see that momentum in certain circles in fashion world and then say we should invest in this? And what would be the keys to keeping these collaborations like this alive over the next few years?
I think it's about keeping things real and being true to who we are. This is a brand that is very real. I mean, I've said this before, but we're living in some strange times, guys. I'm sure I don't have to tell you that, but 10 years ago, nobody heard the term, for the people in the media here, nobody heard the term fake news. You saw the news, it was the news. The news is the news. Right now, you don't know what's real and what's fake. Some things you think are real probably have some falsehoods to them. And some of the things you think are fake might have a tinge of reality to them. People want certain things that they know are real. Birkenstock is as real as it gets. And if you have a brand that's real. So
you're benefiting from fake, I'm trying to connect the fake news and.
Because people right now, it's like, look at the 1980s when everybody got into the whole idea of cocooning, you know? This is the, right?
That's before.
Right now, people are gravitating towards products and experiences that are real. And in a world of fake news where you don't know what's real and what's fake, you can't fake a Birkenstock. When you wear the real thing, you know the real thing. And I think people need that to ground themselves right now. And I think the more the world has become a little bit more chaotic, almost the better it's been for a brand like Birkenstock, and speaking specifically for Birkenstock, because we do help ground people in something that's very real. We still make a product that by and large is made by hand. 32 people's hands touch a Birkenstock before it makes it out of our factory. Everything we make is made in our own factory.
What was the, I'm sorry, the by and large part? Where's the room for not by hand in there?
Well, I mean, there is some automation in the process, but by and large, in a world of like automated manufacturing and all of the things that go on and looking at what's behind the curtain and how products come to market in a world of fast fashion, we ain't fast fashion, guys. I got to tell you right now, it takes 12 months to build this product line and bring it to market. So when you shop retail and the world has become a fast fashion retail mall, you'll see more people wearing Birkenstocks in one of those fast fashion teen type chains, because I think that one purchase that they're wearing does give them that grounding of doing something that's just good and feels good.
You joined the company to run the Americas business in 2013. What did you walk into back then in terms of what the business looked like, what the partners looked like, and what was your focus over, let's say, that first couple of years?
Yeah, I mean, for somebody like me, I'm a brand guy. And to have the opportunity, I've been in the footwear industry my entire adult life, to have the opportunity to help manage, and I won't even use the word manage, but to be the steward of a brand that's 240 plus years old and is the most iconic brand in the history of the footwear industry, to walk into something where...
I was going to say a word called Nike, but...
Well, okay. Nike's been around for 45 years. We've been around 240 something, so a little bit different. For us, what the situation was really 7 years ago, the mind space was like this, and the market space was tiny. And the way
what does that mean exactly?
Yeah, the way I like to say it is, I use this analogy. Remember in high school, everyone ate lunch in the cafeteria, and there was the cool kids table, right? Where all the popular kids sat. And then way over in the corner, there was kind of the geeky kids table. Birkenstock was the geeky kids table. The kids who were there really got it, but the other kids didn't. And we just started to see some little indications that the popular kids were starting to get onto it. But what we did was, instead of getting up from our chair and going over and sitting with them, we kept our roots where we were, and we just looked over and said, hey, you fashionable crowd, you're just now figuring out what our longtime fans knew all along. Now, some of them just happen to be bold-faced Hollywood celebrities, but most are just regular people. And that's really what's made this brand what it is. It was this idea of how do you unlock, how do you take a brand and instead of engineering an evolution, engineer a revolution? And that's what we've done between myself and our team and our partners in Germany.
So how much of your business today is through sort of your direct business, which I think you're making an active effort to grow?
Sure.
Both online and in store, and retail partnerships?
Well, when we first started here in the Americas, we had zero online business. The previous administration did not believe in it. They basically had a website that told you where to go to your local store. I'm unapologetic, even with our largest retail partners, about the right for a brand to do direct-to-consumer business. Having said that, when I first took over this business 6 to 7 years ago, there were certain retailers in the market that are very influential that I went to who helped establish this brand. And we will never compromise by our direct-to-consumer business anything that we do with those partners. I think
who are some of those partners?
The Nordstroms of the world, the Dillards of the world, whether it's the Barneys or people like that. And I think, you know, that raises a good question, Jason, but let's say you're Nike and you're $35 billion. Some people might say, why do Foot Locker business? Why don't you do the whole thing direct? Because I still think the 18-year-old kid wants to see the validation of that product in a Foot Locker window. So it's really a tightrope that we walk on. How do we make sure we're servicing our brand fans, and how do we make sure we're servicing our wholesale partners, and how do you do it in a universe where it all makes sense and it all is consistent? I mean, CEOs of retail companies have been throwing out the word omni-channel, right? Since 2002. Omni-channel, that was the hot word. Omni-channel is meaningless. It just means that wherever somebody intersects with your brand, whether it's in my store, whether it's at a retail partner, or whether it's online, they have to have that emotional experience with the brand. If not, then we become transactional. And no disrespect, I'm not running jockey underwear. That's just a different way to think about a brand.
That leads us naturally to a discussion over your business that you used to have with Amazon, and that you no longer have a wholesale business with Amazon. So you coming in 2013, Amazon is one of your wholesale partners. 2016, I think you eventually make the decision to pull back from that wholesale relationship. There's probably a long version and a short version, maybe a medium version of what happened with Amazon.
It's really funny because I don't talk about this too much, publicly. And we also didn't set out to be like the poster boy for do the right thing or anti-Amazon. We're not. I'm not an Amazon basher. It depends on what company you're running. For our brand, it wasn't the right fit. And it's not just Amazon, it's any retail partner that we feel was not representing the emotional connection of the experience of purchasing our product. I mean, it's common knowledge, but yes, when I first joined this company, one of our largest wholesale customers was Amazon Direct, and the business was growing very dramatically. It was outpacing our business in general. And
I think you said at least double-digit percentage of your overall business.
It was growing very quickly. And we just internally made a decision that as brand managers, what we did over the last 3 years was going to set the foundation for where we're going to be in not just 3 months or 3 years, but 30 years. I mean, again, we are brand stewards. I've said this before, but brand management is an art. It really is. It's an art. Unfortunately, right now, the way the marketplace is becoming so dynamic, and Amazon might be the most visible, but it's not just Amazon. It's become a martial art. And if it's a martial art and you're managing a brand, you better be Bruce Lee. That's the way you have to think about this, and that's the way we think about this. There's something called self-defense. Well, if you're a brand manager, you have to think the same way. And maybe we were just the first people to have this awakening of where we want our brand to be and what was consistent with our brand as we were in this almost a startup phase, and certainly we needed the revenue, and we were just establishing the brand, but we chose the partners and the points of distribution that we felt were most consistent with our brand.
And you had some very specific issues or gripes with your Amazon experience. One was you believed there was a counterfeit issue. But even beyond the counterfeit issue, you also, from what I can gather, were not a fan of just the marketplace strategy in general that Amazon employs, which is where anyone who gets their hand on a Birkenstock shoe, essentially however they get their hand on it, can sell on their marketplace. And you wanted the marketplace just limited to official partners of Birkenstock. That didn't happen, right? Why was that your stance? Why did you feel strongly that Amazon should play that game with you?
Well, to me, the marketplace is no different than Roosevelt Field Mall or Paramus Park Mall or Menlo Park Mall or Hudson Yards. It's a mall. That's what it is. If I am Nike and I'm selling Foot Locker in the mall, and maybe I have a Nike Town down on the other end, and maybe I have Finish Line, and I have Journeys, and each one means a little bit different to me, I certainly don't want a kiosk opening up in the middle that just happens to have my product. And the product might be real, it might be fake, I don't know. I didn't sell it to them, so I can't validate it. But to me, that just goes against, and again, it's personal for us. Other people need to make their own decisions, but for us, it went against every mandate that we have of good brand management and connecting with our consumers and giving our consumers the experience that we believe as brand fans they should have, so that it's not just purchase and go, but it is a true brand experience.
So it's wasn't about not wanting to get undercut on price by someone who might
That's part of it. That's part of it. I mean,
that's not good for consumers?
We don't believe so. We believe we make a fair product and we sell it at a fair price. Some people might say, well, what's wrong with that? Just charge, people should pay as little as they possibly can for something. Well, if you want to put every manufacturer eventually out of business, try going with that mantra. Nobody is gorging. Oh, I can't say nobody, but people like us, we're not gorging the market. I mean, we make a fair product. We have highly skilled labor, we make it in our own factories, and we sell it to consumers at a fair price. And that's part of brand management. If you want to go to Madison Avenue right now and go to the Hermes store, you don't go in there going, excuse me, is there a friends and family sale today? Or do you have a coupon on Thursday?
Have you met me?
Yeah.
Okay,
well,
okay.
It's not going to happen in Hermes. And different brands are different. There are some retailers where you go in there and you expect that. We decided that we were going to establish this brand with a level playing field. And I think it's disrespectful to the marketplace. If you buy something today and you go out the next day and you see it on sale, is that fair to you? I don't think that's fair. I think a fair product should be purchased at a fair price, and that's a relationship that you have with your end users. And that's something that's very, very important to us.
You've opened some new Birkenstock stores recently. What is the goal of having your own stores? And what do you want that experience to be like?
Yeah, everyone talks about brick and mortar retail is dead. Bad retail is dead. Great retail is thriving. And I got to tell you, we opened a store here in Soho, which is outstripping every expectation you could possibly have. 3 weeks ago, we opened a store in Venice, California, on Abbot Kinney, one of the best retail streets. And what we wanted to do was we wanted to create a totally immersive brand experience. The world doesn't need just another shoe store. If you walk down Broadway, there's shoe stores on any side of the street. I don't know if you're stopping and going in. People are coming into our stores, and it's an incredible experience. Some people are like, oh my God, I found like, you know, I'm in Mecca. I'm a huge Birkenstock fan. Other people come in and they're like, you know, I've never really gotten into this whole Birkenstock thing, but wow, I really see the whole story. And we can give them an immersive experience, and we can learn a lot. Look, the Holy Grail, I'm wearing them today, but the Holy Grail is the feel of a Birkenstock sandal in a shoe. People wear a lot more shoes than they wear sandals. We're the kings and queens of sandals, which is great, but I can go around New York City and go in a lot of offices and you won't see a sandal today. In our own stores, we can have products that right now are proving themselves into the market. In some of our in the 2 stores right now, the penetration of non-sandals is so significant right now. We're able to go to our retail partners as we plan 6 to 12 months down the road and say, hey, Nordstroms of the world, this is an incremental business on top of your sandal business.
How are you, if anyone has questions, by the way, please line up. We have a couple minutes for questions. How are you guarding against or sort of strategizing around the reality that some of your partners are having a tough go of it right now? Does that make you lean into direct a little more aggressively because you don't know what's going to happen to some of your partners?
Yeah, to some degree. I mean, look, I believe when the water rises, all ships rise. I would love if our retail partners, by and large, were doing better than they are right now. Having said that, we're a bright spot in their stores. And maybe we prove that thinking a little bit differently, thinking outside the box, not the traditional vendor-retailer relationship, we sell to you, hopefully you sell our product. We're all vendor-managed inventory, even on the retail side. We have planners, we plan everything. So I think we would love the retail industry, the economy in general, to be great. But having said that, I kind of try to follow the mantra of, like, you know, Warren Buffett in 2009 when they said, oh my God, Warren Buffett, the recession's happening, what are you going to do about it? And he said, you know what, I choose not to participate. I don't want to have blinders on, but again, if you manage your brand to a different level and you believe and you wholeheartedly hold yourself true, I think you're somewhat more immune to what's going on in the general economy.
Also helps to be a private company?
To some degree, and you know, people have said, oh, you guys made these tough decisions because you're a private company. We have shareholders. Their last name is Birkenstock, and they're not in this just to sit back and hang out. I mean, we have very aggressive growth plans. We don't have to do skincare. We don't have to do beds. We don't have to open retail stores. We don't have to focus on all the things we're doing, but we're doing it because we believe this is just the foundation for what the future could be. Like I said, when you have a product that brings people happiness and satisfaction, is there a limit on how much happiness and satisfaction you should be bringing to the world? To me, more brands should focus. It's not just the product. It's the energy that that product brings to the universe. If there were more companies that focused on bringing products to the universe that genuinely gave people joy, happiness, satisfaction, people don't have buyer's remorse when they walk out of a store with a pair of Birkenstocks. And there's no brand that has a more visceral and emotional reaction than Birkenstock. I mean, me and my team were in a restaurant in California a short while ago, and somebody at the next table mentioned the word Birkenstock. And somebody said, oh, this is the team from, they stood up and gave us a standing ovation. You would have thought we were the Rolling Stones. It's just.
Still haven't convinced me. These aren't, you haven't worn them yet.
Well, You will for the next show.
Okay. Can we take a question here? Please tell us who you are.
Hi, I'm Phil Walpers from Target. First off, love the customer centricity you're just oozing here. You sound like a fan of your fans, and I appreciate that. Questions about how the American business compares to the European or the global markets, and I'm more interested in the nuance you see with the American consumer versus the European.
Yeah, it's a little hard to say. Obviously, things are happening globally for us very quickly. I think traditionally in Germany, Birkenstock was more of a house shoe. So we were a little bit more of a pedestrian type item. Here, 7 years ago, we elevated the product to be quite aspirational. But it's happening globally very quickly, and I think, you know, the difference is a can of Coke is a can of Coke anywhere around the world, but ready-to-wear and footwear does have some nuances, and really good brands are able to figure out what those nuances are while staying true to the DNA. But it's not easy globally to find like one item across all markets, just because people have different, you know, taste levels.
Is the Americas the biggest part of the business geographically?
I can't really share what our regional breakdown is, but I could say the Americas business is very significant to the global total. And what happens in the Americas right now is driving a lot of what's happening globally for the brand. But suffice to say, I mean, we have an incredible global team. Asia, our team in Europe, we're opening India. The brand is just growing dramatically globally.
Let's squeeze in one more question, please.
Hi, Dave. Pam Dillon, Wine Ring, Ring It, software for the wine and spirits industry. So my question is going to go to sustainability and sourcing your materials, and whether the supply chain is able to deliver that for you, especially given the increasing focus of sustainable products really across consumer. And then one very specific question. In the wine industry, we're very focused on cork taint when you get a corked bottle of wine, and I'm just really curious whether or not that's a dynamic for your business as well.
Yeah, I would assume to some degree. As far as sustainability, we don't try to beat the drum like we are the sustainable people, but it's just good practices in our business. And again, some of the materials that we use are, so, as you know, cork is one of the most sustainable materials on the face of the earth. It's one of the most dynamic materials. They use cork in NASA rockets. So, I mean, being known for using that material, by and large, as a recognizable element of our product isn't bad from a sustainability standpoint.
Thank you, David.